Hey, music lovers, Sara J here. Looking for an inclusive space where you can connect with fellow fans, deep dive into your favorite music, and be a part of something special? Well, look no further. Join us on Patreon, where music and community come together. Get exclusive content, behind the scenes access, and a place to geek out over the artists you love, plus explore music you haven't heard yet. Come hang out with us. Patreon.com/DATC Media Company. That's patreon.com/DATC Media Company. See you there. A member of the DATC Media family. Thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be such a blast. Like I said before we actually started recording, this has been such a special project to bring to not only my listeners and my fan base, but also to the guitar community and the Rough Gauge army, as we like to call them. Everybody has just really loved getting to know all of these guitar players. So I'm so excited to talk with you. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for, highlighting guitar players of all flavors. Yeah, we all appreciate it.
Oh, I love it. I'm such a nerd for it. And it's funny because people ask me, it's one of the first questions people ask me if I play, and I don't. And people are like, really? I'm like, yeah, I think I don't have the patience with myself to do
Mm,
that. So that's just why I don't think I've ever done it. And now so much other life has happened and, you know,
sure,
get to
sure.
the adulting part of things. So,
Well, it
um,
seems like you've at least got a good ear.
I, I will tout my own horn on my ear all day long. I'm tone girl. I can, name that guitarist from somebody will play it. I'll be like, oh, that sounds like. I have an ear for it and I have a passion for it. And just something about the sound that it makes just fills my body with all the feels. So
So you've got the guitar player spirit in you for sure.
for sure, for sure. I will just live vicariously through you guys. That's all.
Sounds good.
I'm good at the PR part.
Mm,
So I will let you guys play and then I'll just talk y'all up. It's a perfect combination.
sounds good to me. Yeah,
It works well.
yeah.
All right, so let's talk about you. Tell me the guitarists that have had the most influence on you musically and your playing.
Yeah, happily. Yeah, there's a lot here. I think the first guitarist I ever really heard where I thought like, oh, that's a cool instrument was probably Slash. I had
Well, I mean, come on, that you could just pack it up and go home with Slash, right?
yeah, yeah. I had a cassette of Appetite for Destruction like way young and just really and I think it wasn't like Welcome to the Jungle or Sweet Child of Mine. I think it was Night Train. Because Night Train just has like a really beautiful like melodic chorus, and then the verses are really rocking, and then Axel starts singing about things that like scared me as a young person, and they just seemed like such badasses. Um, and then, when I started playing, all I really wanted to play was like Metallica and Black Sabbath and like Ozzy Osbourne, all that stuff. I wanted to like shred like Kirk Hammett and Zach Wilde and Randy Rhoads and Tony Iommi. And I think a lot of that stuff impacted my playing. I would say Tony Iommi probably the heaviest because I just love like big riffs and kind of bluesy solo runs. That stuff. And yeah, eventually you start branching out, get a little more eclectic. I'd say my number one guitar player's got to be John Frusciante from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I've always really loved the intersection of funk and rock, and I think that the Chili Peppers just do that so well. And he really can play anything. I mean, he's definitely like playing a part in the Chili Peppers, but like within what he does in that band, there's just so much musicality. I love the way he solos. He can shred for days, and he will also just like sit on notes for a while and just make it sound wonderful. And the way him and Flea jam live, they're like really locked in together. So so yeah, and I've learned a lot even just from digging into his influences, and the band's influences, because they love a lot of that like kind of 80s new wave, post-punk. They're all like big into punk rock, which to this day doesn't totally grab me. It's select things here and there, but I always like to learn about my favorite guitar players.
Yep.
And so kind of like digging into that stuff has sort of broadened my horizons a bit more. And then more in that funk rock realm, I really love like early funkadelic, like all the guitar heavy kind of stuff out of the P-Funk universe. And I love all the Parliament records, and the later stuff. I mean, George Clinton's catalog is overwhelming, quite
Yeah.
frankly. But I love those kind of classic funkadelic records. There's a lot of really cool players on there, and just a lot of like danceable guitar stuff. Um, yeah, so those are like a lot of the big ones, and lately I'm kind of drawn to a lot of different stuff that catches my ear. I'm really trying to just like stay I'm trying to just stay like turned on to music. I'm gonna turn 40 in a couple months, and I don't want to be one of those people that's like only listening to like my old Nirvana and Soundgarden records,
For sure.
Although all of that music, had a huge impact on me. Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Nirvana, yeah, Smashing Pumpkins, got huge Smashing Pumpkins. I think by the time I was in fifth grade, I had like their whole discography on CD. Um,
Amazing.
uh, but I diverge. Yeah, I'm trying to just I'm trying to find new stuff I like. There's so much great psychedelic rock coming out these days. I've gotten like way into King Gizzard. They've kind of become like the way I look at my friends who like have followed like Fish and the Dead around. I've always like dabbled in both of those bands, but like King Gizzard, I'm like, oh, this is like my Fish, and I have traveled and will continue to travel to see them.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, there's something in the water in Melbourne, Australia. There's like all these great bands that have come out of that town. Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, Amel and the Sniffers. So I'm just trying to listen to a lot of things and just hear, where guitar is going, like where rock music is going, just like what people are listening to. So so yeah, that stuff, I'm not sure how much of it has like come into my playing just yet, but I think there's things I'm conscious of and things that you're not conscious of. So I just try to listen to like a big variety of music. I also love like really minimalistic funk guitar players. One of my other favorite bands is Jamiroquai, and they're not known for being like a guitar centric shreddy guitar band. It's a lot of kind of single notes and like really sitting back, and I think there's a lot of value in that playing in the right environment. Um, so yeah, like I try to incorporate that stuff a little bit too. Yeah, yeah, so I'm kind of all over the place, I'd say.
I like it. I like the eclecticness. I think it's important too, especially in music, is to really just, if possible, just devour everything and really kind of ignore a label or a category that they're put in, and just really going, well, I like the way they sound, so I'm going to listen to it, and just go with what you feel and what you like. Couple things that I wanted to say too, as you were
Yeah.
talking. Minimal notes, I think, are something, especially in like guitar playing and things like that. It's sometimes, I think, maybe a little controversial to say in music in a way, but it's almost like words. And I've learned in growing older that sometimes more is said within your silence. Or,
Yeah.
you only said a few things, but you only said a few things, but they were way more impactful than giving somebody a whole paragraph, and so there is a time and a place for the fast, shreddy, like blow your mind, holy shit. But
Yeah.
then there's that time for that
Yeah.
minimalistic approach as well. I think it's important.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I think it's important.
The other guitar player in one of my bands, he has this like joke about like who's the best paid like per note guitar player, and we both think that it's David Gilmour, because he's so good at that. So that's like a great example. Like Pink Floyd, huge band, not known for being shreddy, but like you could sing every guitar solo in their catalog.
Totally. Totally.
Um, so yeah, sometimes that stuff is more impactful. I mean, I love seeing like, virtuosity at work, but I think for me, I've always really gravitated more towards like virtuosity in the context of like feeling and soul. And I do think having both is possible.
Totally.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. The point you made too about the water in Australia. Actually, I had a guest on my show probably about a year ago. I think it was last summer, and he has an internet radio station. And he was talking about a lot of different music, obviously, on here, but he brought up King Gizzard. And he told me that the reason why, I mean, they're obviously very exceptionally gifted musicians, but the reason why that they have had so much success outside of Australia is because the government actually funds
Mm,
the arts in their country. That Australia actually has money that they give, whatever the stipulations are, I don't know, but there's actually something there though, that their government helps provide funding for artists and musicians and helps pay for things like studio time, which as a musician is expensive,
hmm.
and you have to be really diligent with your time because you're paying for every minute in there. So they help pay for the studio time, they help pay for the PR, they help pay for these things that is really the stuff that the band needs. I mean, you can have all this talent and everything, but unfortunately now, if you don't have those other ingredients that are going to help push your music out there, only your mom's going to hear it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so that was a really interesting piece that of information that I got. And so anytime I hear somebody mention that about King Gizzard, I'm like, well, actually,
Yeah.
it's because the government is helping them fund, different arts, and they understand that those kind of things are not only important to, the country, but it's important to the economy too, to have a thriving arts and entertainment division. I mean, if we put that much emphasis into what we do here, I mean, it would be incredible.
Yeah. That makes so much sense now. I definitely, I'm so curious about like how that works, but because I'm telling you, it's like every like other new band I'm hearing that I like, I'm like, oh, they're from Australia, of course. There's like so much good music coming out of there, and yeah, to be an up and coming band, to have some funding put behind you, whether it's for like promotion, for like photos, proper studio recordings, that all costs like time and money, and it just like, I mean, I've been playing music for a while in Baltimore, and I've seen some incredible bands who totally could like make it for whatever that's worth.
Right.
Had, they had the proper promotion or visibility or whatever it is. So, I think the fact that they're able to like give these bands like kind of launching pads is incredible. Yeah, that's great. We should be more like Australia.
We should we could do a whole podcast on other ways, I'm sure. But I digress.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned in your Q&A that I always say his last name wrong, so we're just not going to say his last name. You know who I mean.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned in your Q&A that he has a lot of Hendrix in him.
Oh yeah.
So elaborate on that for me.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's funny because I didn't even before like mention sort of those classic guitar players that every kid when they pick up guitar goes to. So of course there's a lot of Hendrix learning. Everyone like digs into the Zeppelin catalog, which to this day I still dig into, and you learn something new every time.
Every time.
Yeah, yeah, the Hendrix stuff. It's a lot of his like. Mm, God, I wish I had a glossary of like Hendrix terms here, but like a lot of his sliding and his hammer-ons and his like he'll do these hammer-ons and pull-offs with like chords in the upper register. Like if you think about think about like The Wind Cries Mary, that's like all over that. It's a lot of that stuff. Castles Made of Sand, which the Chili Peppers covered, I think in like the late '80s, early '90s. Yeah, it's a lot of the kind of things that made Hendrix is playing his sort of signature moves that I see John do a lot. There's even interviews where he's saying that that song Snow, Heyo, which is like a very sort of
Mhm.
melodic poppy rock song. He's just saying that riff is like a Hendrix ripoff almost because it's all hammer-ons and pull-offs that do the that part.
Mhm.
So it's really in there in his playing, and I find myself doing like a lot of that stuff. There's like a section in one of my band's songs where it's pretty much just like a chord progression with funky bass, little instrumental break, and I'm like, it's like all Hendrixy Frusciante stuff, 'cause it just works so well over that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that's where I see it. I mean, Hendrix is I think Hendrix is in Kurt Cobain's playing. He's
For
influenced the
sure.
guitar world all over for sure.
All
Yeah.
over. And like you were talking earlier of consciously and subconsciously, I think that would be one of the biggest players that people would even subconsciously not even, they're playing and they're subconsciously influenced by it because it's just so pivotal and groundbreaking, not only in guitar music, but just in music in general, and just everything at that time was just like, oh shit, what is this? Like, you're like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah. And I think there's just such a lineage with everything. Like I was listening to the Chili Peppers for, a long time before I really got into Funkadelic, and Frusciante's also hugely influenced by Funkadelic, and so that stuff was influencing me without me even knowing it. And it's another reason I love checking out new bands and new music because you can really just like it's just like following a lineage of a sound, and I think bands coming up are probably influenced by things that are have their origins like decades earlier than they're conscious of, and it's I don't know, I think it's just like a beautiful thing to follow the evolution of guitar playing and music because it's always changing.
And it's a beautiful web. Like that was the other thing I was gonna say when you were talking about liking to dig into your influences. And it's such a very fun little web to get yourself all deep. And I feel like I look like that meme. Have you ever seen the meme with Charlie from Always Sunny, and he's like
Oh yeah.
pointing to the thing and he looks
Oh
all
yeah.
crazy and he's all like
Yeah.
That's me, like trying to be like, but this person was influenced by this person, and
Oh
then they
yeah.
made this album together, and then this guy did this here, and then what? And my kids are just like, okay, mom, like what? But then, my daughter is an amazing piano player, and my son just loves
Cool.
music to death, and it's just like, you guys appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. Don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I feel
That's
like
why
I
I'm such a
have
nerd about reading biographies. I
mm,
love reading, like whenever somebody will put out a book, and now so many people from older bands that I grew up on, now they're like writing books and stuff because it's their
yeah.
time in their life to do that. And I'm just like, give me all the books about everybody's life.
Oh yeah.
I
I
want to
pretty
read
much exclusively read musician biographies. Yeah, it's
too much.
every now and then I try to fix that, and then like another, 5 books come out that I want to read, and yeah, I love that stuff. Yeah, I did Sly Stone's biography recently, his
Nice.
autobiography. That was
Okay.
cool.
All right.
I read Questlove's book about hip hop history.
I read the one about just music is history. I think that
Oh
was
yeah,
the name
yeah,
of. I read that one. I
yeah,
saw that
yeah,
Cat Stevens just came out with a book that I want to read.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the guy, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I could just read nothing but that stuff, be
Read
perfectly
nothing but
happy.
that. I
Yeah.
do. My next one that I really need to read is David Byrne's book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Make that a major priority. David Burns, what is it? How Music Works? Yeah.
Yeah.
That book was I want to read it again, quite frankly. That book was so good. Such like an interesting like he writes about the history of concert halls and just like the social context of music, and then gets into technology like yeah, God, if I could, David Byrne would probably be one of those people if you could invite like, whatever it is, like 3 people living or dead to a dinner party. I would love to just listen to David Byrne talk. Like
Literally.
he's incredible. Yeah, probably one of
Literally.
my favorite concerts. This is like always my number one when people ask me. I saw when St. Vincent and David Byrne did that album together. I saw
Mm-hmm.
that show where they had a whole brass band, and it was just everyone was mobile, like they were all wireless, and there was just choreography with like every song. It was like I could not listen to music on the ride home or the rest of that night. It just completely blew me away. Yeah.
That's amazing. You were just trying to absorb and process this amazing art that you just
Yeah.
encountered.
Yeah. It
Oh,
was it
that's
was
amazing. That's giving me goosebumps, like
it was
literally. That's
totally
amazing.
mesmerizing. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, I am like buying this book today.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I'm gonna buy it this weekend and get it because one of the other guys that I interviewed for the featured artist series had mentioned it, and we were talking about the concert halls and everything else. And then I think David Byrne's birthday was like yesterday or this week or
Oh
something.
yeah.
So I saw some posts about it, of course.
Mm.
And then yesterday there was like a snippet from his book, and I saw in another post, and I'm like, okay, universe, I get it. I need to get this book and read it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
came up again. I got it. It's
Allow me to be the final sign that you need to read that book.
okay. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. There you go. After we get off of here, I'm gonna go and order it. So
All right.
I love it. So talk to me about playing guitar. When did you start doing that and why?
Oh yeah. Started when I was 10. My parents got me like a little half-size acoustic for Hanukkah. I believe I was in 5th grade. I tried piano a couple years earlier and it just like didn't quite take, I guess. And I guess they saw that I was like starting to listen to, guitar-based music. And so yeah, started when I was 10. I think got an electric like a year later. And yeah, just like I think my dream was to just be a musician once I started playing. And I tried to, perform every chance I got. Like I think my 5th grade class had a talent show and I sang a couple Green Day songs. I sang a Silverchair song tomorrow at like my sixth grade back to school night. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. But
The 90s were a totally different time, my friend.
it just cracks me up that a bunch of parents are going to back to school night and then some little like long-haired little kid is up there with his guitar like wailing on Silverchair.
I love
But it
it.
was fun, and my dad said he got like a really nice compliment from another dad who was also a musician. So I guess I turned some heads.
There you go.
Um, yeah, and yeah, just kept playing, just trying to be like my idols, you know. My older brother started playing in a band at some point. He picked up guitar a little after I did, and then I joined that band at some point. Because I guess they were looking for another singer, and it was the whole thing of like, do I want my little brother in the band,
For
blah
sure.
blah blah, and that kind of thing. And he got over that at some point. So I think at like 12 years old, I was singing in that band, and we had many names. We were mostly called Titanium Vortex.
I like this though. This is a great name.
That's the name that you come up with when you're a bunch of teenagers who are like attempting to play metal, I guess.
And you're trying to
Um,
sound just rock band.
and Titanium is a very heavy metal, and that was the thing.
Okay. So you guys were paying attention in science class.
I
Okay.
suppose.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. And we gigged like a little bit. We joined some, organization that, gave like young bands spaces to play, played in like church basements, like synagogue talent shows. Oh, we played at my bar mitzvah party. That was a blast. We had our own little stage and I crowd surfed.
That's
Um,
amazing.
that was fun.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Welcome to adulthood,
Um,
right?
yeah, yeah. What better way to do it? Yeah. Yeah, and then I played in jazz band in high school. For like my junior and senior year. Had like I'd been with the same guitar teacher pretty much since I started playing, and then I started bringing him jazz songs, which he was like not used to with me, but he was a great guitar player and had God, he has this like 1950s like gold top Les Pauls, like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Yeah. Um,
Just the thought of it is just making me salivate a little. Let me wipe
yeah.
up here.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did jazz band in high school, and that definitely opened up my playing. I wish I could tell you that I am a good jazz guitar player this day, but I'm sort of a poor man's jazz guitar player, for lack of a better term. Because I didn't really play much beyond that. Yeah, and so let's see. College, I played a bunch with one of my roommates, just coffee house, acoustic kind of stuff. And I started like writing more songs around then too. It was just like little acoustic duo, like little rock instrumentals where I could just like put riffs on top of riffs and do a little soloing and that kind of thing. And then like the first, I guess, adult real band I joined was called the Res, and that started when I was like about 21. Yeah, we played our first show actually like 3 days after my 21st birthday. So that band was like a super eclectic. As the band's like time went on, we sort of became like more of like a riffy rock band with some groove to it. Definitely like a groove element. But in the beginning, like we had a couple reggae songs, we had some funkier songs, definitely some heavier rock songs. So sort of playing in the jam scene, I think we found a nice home there. I was really the only one like into the jam scene. Everyone else was kind of fighting it, and I was like, oh no, but we'd be a great jam band because we get heavier than most of them. And that's what I love about Humphreys, for the record. That's what really reeled me into them. I was like, oh, these guys can like shred and play like metal.
That was
Um,
my thing too, is because if you listen to any of the other episodes I did or any of my show, I'm not a Fish fan.
mm.
And
Uh-oh.
I respect the Grateful Dead. I respect what they've done for music. I respect what they have done for, obviously, the community and that whole ethos of the whole idea. I mean, my goodness, my whole company is built off, community and bringing people together with the music. But
Yeah.
their music just doesn't do it for me. It just doesn't get me there. I was raised on 70s progressive rock.
Oh,
And
okay.
so for me, it all just felt really like light, like limp, like come on, boys, I know we got balls, sort of a thing, you
Sure,
know?
sure, sure.
And that's
Yeah,
how I feel
yeah.
about a lot of jam. A lot of jam bands are fantastic until the singer opens his mouth.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's
Yeah,
how I feel about a lot of
yeah,
them. I
yeah,
love Mo though. Like Mo has my heart from
yeah.
Buffalo. I mean, so there's that, love for that. But I was the same way. It was just because, being, a fan of their music, you kind of get lumped into being a jam band fan. But in actuality, it's like, I don't
That's
really
funny.
like it.
Yeah. I right around that time when the Res started playing, I did start exploring the jam scene a lot more. And I was studying journalism in college, and we can get into that later, I guess. And really starting like my photography, which I still do to this day. And the jam scene was very accessible and open. And I was also going to the University of Maryland, so being associated with a student newspaper that had 30,000 undergrads, it could certainly open a lot of doors.
For
So
sure.
so I definitely capitalized on that and just the jam scene's openness, and did a lot of, writing and photography and just going to festivals. And yeah, I will say my tastes like lately are not so much with, I'm kind of just not super into the jam scene these days. Mo was an early band for me. They like kind of got me into it. I still really like them, love Umphreys. There's like plenty of bands that I still love, but it's just not the thing that's been like turning me on lately. Um but I do think like early on and being in a band, and this may have been, really because I was like, the only one in my band going to these kinds of shows, but it really like opened my eyes to the possibilities of just like having an eclectic sound and of improvising. And this band, the Res, didn't really jam so much. We very rarely would just like go out there like that, but we certainly improvised, and we certainly would like extend parts, just in like a more maybe truncated manner. But like for me, it really it did open up my musical world a lot, and I think that kind of led me to just back into like, because I think like when I was really young, I was listening to like an eclectic array of music because I was just eating up like whatever was like thrown my way. And it was, MTV was still playing music, and I know it was like the second iteration, more corporatized MTV, but like the fact that I could like get home from school and turn on the TV and see like a Salt and Peppa video followed by a Stone Temple Pilots video, like that really, did some good things for my musical palette, I will say. Um, and then I got like super into metal. I was listening to like all the new metal, and like very little of it was good, or at least holds up to this day. And I think like jam bands kind of snapped me out of it, and I was like, "Oh, happy music." Like I think my buddy played me what the hell's the Mo song called? Spine of a Dog.
Yeah.
And this is when I'm like fully in my metal phase, and I was like, what the hell is this goofy shit?
Oh yeah.
And but but it was like really fun, and I'm like, these are great guitar players, like they can write a song. And like I always loved like, Mo's like structured, sort of escapades, like, songs like Rebubula and like Buster, like all that stuff where they'd have these they're all prog heads, so
Totally. Totally.
yeah, yeah. So that stuff, I think just like really opened my eyes up to just, the possibilities of like you don't need to stick to one genre and, um yeah, so I could continue on my playing journey, I suppose.
Yeah. We got a little sidetracked, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
That
yeah.
happens. That happens
Yeah,
when you're talking
yeah,
to me. We go
yeah.
on side
Talking
tracks.
about music, yeah. No, we always stay on topic. So yeah, the Res played for I want to say about 8 years, and played regionally. And we threw our own festival. I've got like a wall full of posters. Like we did 12 of them, man.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I kind of can't believe it all happened.
Wow.
We were for a couple years we were doing two a year, which is how we sort of crammed them in. But we started in like 2007, I think was the first one. We had some friends who lived like kind of just outside, the University of Maryland's, maybe 15 minutes down the road from there, who had this. They still live there. This beautiful property. They live in like this 1800s like stone and log cabin, and you're kind of in the middle of like it's Prince George's County, which is sort of like DC suburban, urban like overflow. It's just kind of like, you know, DC just sort of
Okay.
goes into the suburbs. So it's like pretty busy down there, and you turn off this busy road, you go up this driveway, and then all of a sudden you're like in the middle of the woods, and there was like a perfect little spot. We like built a stage out of pallets. And I mean, we would just like get a few kegs and like charge a really cheap admission price, and people could camp. Eventually, we started having people camp there. Like there was one year we did like all this landscaping and carved out like little camping spots in the woods and stuff. And that stuck around for a while. We moved it later, but yeah, that was like that was a really amazing time. We would just invite bands who we were friends with and who just wanted to like be a part of the thing because it did kind of become a thing. I think our biggest attendance we probably had like 250 people, and this is like
It's a
not a
lot of
huge
people.
site. Yeah, I remember like just yeah, looking around like where the hell did all these people come from? But like
Yeah.
we were all still in college when we started it. It was near the campus, and so it was just sort of like a right place, right time kind of thing. And we had a good amount of. I feel like we had at least a handful of acts who have like come through and then done something with themselves. Pigeons playing ping pong for I would say is the big example. I mean, we used to play bars in College Park with them, and then definitely had them middle of the day one year. I think I paid them in like cheeseburgers and gas money, which is how all the bands got paid.
Yeah,
I think,
which is most of the time how bands get paid.
yeah, yeah, really. Eventually, I put a little budget behind it and just tried to get, hire a proper sound guy, get some lighting. I mean, we would get like
Invest in the first important needs during a
yeah,
music festival
yeah,
for
yeah. Is
sure.
it gonna sound and look good?
Definitely. Pigeons is from that area, aren't they? Aren't they from like Virginia or something
Well,
ish?
they're. I guess you could say they're from Baltimore because they're all living up here now, but they all formed like at the University of Maryland as well.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, they're like a
okay.
couple years younger than we were. But yeah, I mean, they had quite the community around them. And actually,
Yeah,
we moved. So the band was called the Res. We called it the Res Ball. It was our ball,
it's cool. I love that. I love that.
and and yeah, we were sort of like intersecting with them a bit, just at whatever gigs, and they had started Dome Fest at a place around there, like called the Domes of Beltsville, because there are two geodesic domes on the property. Um,
That's cool.
and so we opened the first one, and then I was like, oh, this property is amazing, and like the place where my friends are, where we started, it is an amazing place in itself, but there was no on-site parking, and this
Mhm.
place had parking, and it had like some buildings we could open up to people, like people could go inside, like band members had proper bathrooms and all that. So So we moved it there at some point, and it allowed us to like expand a little bit. We had some really great years. I like sprained my ankle, I think at the best year, like right before I was about to play two sets. I We didn't have like proper stairs to get up to the stage, so we just had a bench, and I was coming like on and off, and just like landed kind of goofy on my foot and then proceeded to play two sets.
Of course, because it wouldn't be a festival where you had to play two sets with an
Yeah.
ankle injury or
Yeah,
something.
it's
Sounds
like
about
literally
right.
right before it. Yeah. But yeah, so that I mean, I really yeah, the Res, I'm like still good friends with these guys to this day. I really love that band. We kind of called it around 2014. We made a really great album, did like a run of release shows, and then which is how it goes sometimes.
You're like,
Um
yeah, we're done.
yeah. But yeah, I think on that last album we really like honed our sound. Like it was like a real like kind of rock band sound. At some point during the Res, our singer had gone overseas to live in Turkey for a year with his girlfriend, and during that time, the three of us, me and the bass player and the drummer, got involved with this big funk head, old funketeer named Joe Keys, and ended up forming Joe Keys and the Late Bloomer Band. He was about to turn 50, so his like joke was that he's a late bloomer. I think he's about to turn 65 now, actually, and the band has like a 15th anniversary show coming up. But that sprung up, and that was like I think very much in the style of like P Funk. It's like a big old band. We had one horn, and then we had many horns, two guitars, bass, drums, keys. Yeah, that was so that was a lot of fun, and that band I played with for a while, and still do on and off here and there when Joe needs a sub, or he does this Gil Scott Heron tribute once a year, that I've played like a handful of times on. So yeah, that was a lot of fun, and just being in that band and being in this band with Joe has just this deep knowledge of funk and jazz and so much music. Like his guys are Gil and Miles Davis and Sun Ra and P Funk, like all of which I was familiar with. Fela Kuti as well. I was familiar with all of that, some more than others, but it was another thing where it just like opened my eyes up to just other music and other playing possibilities, and the way that band played was a very different approach than like your typical rock band. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. I mean, the other thing I want to emphasize is that like these musicians I've been playing with are all just complete badasses, and I feel so like lucky to the people I still play with and the people I used to play with. The drummer and the bassist from the Res and the Late Bloomer Band, truly like two of my favorite people and musicians. I think he might be one of the best drummers in Baltimore. The singer of the Res, yeah, I just wrote these amazing songs. Like I think that was the strength of the Res, was he was like a proper songwriter. Like he was into stuff like Bare Naked Ladies and things like that. And then so to take like the songwriting prowess of like a poppier band and put it into like a rock format, I think is like a really powerful thing. So we
Totally.
had some great songs there. I mean, the lead guitarist in the Late Bloomer Band, this guy Jaime Ibacache, Berkeley educated shredder. He shreds circles around everybody, and just to be his rhythm guitar player was an amazing experience. So I guess we could fast forward to the bands I'm playing in now, because I kind of yeah, the Res called it in 2014. Other than like subbing with Joe Keys here and there, I was just kind of floating. So I play in this band Greasy Hands now since 2023. Um, and I'd actually had a brief stint in Greasy Hands. I think right around the time the Res broke up, I had recorded a bit with them and then done a few gigs. It just didn't stick at the time. Um, Greasy Hands has had like uh, definitely people in and out over the years, as you do when you've been a band for I think 15 or more years at this point. I mean, they played a res ball back in the day, so that was probably, man, when would that have been? Like 2013, 2012, before that. Um, so so Greasy Hands kind of had some lineup changes I was hearing about in 2023, and I was playing in some other bands too, but they have like a really cool, just like funky. I seem to find myself in funky rock bands all the time, which is great because that's where I love to exist. Um, but Greasy Hands has some like real proggy stuff. Like the keyboardist, I've known the keyboardist since I was 5 years old, so so that's like a real treat to be playing music with him all these years later.
For sure.
Um, he like loves video game music, and just like his brain is he's just really switched on to like playing just like weird, like out there music. So like some of the stuff just has like, I don't, weird is such a terrible word to describe it, but Greasy Hands goes a lot of different places, and I really love it. And so when I heard the guitar slot was opening up, I like put my name in the hat, and the intention was to bring on two new guitar players because they had wanted to for a while. So I joined in like August 2023, and then another guitar player, this guy Charles Simon, joined shortly thereafter. Another Berkeley educated, just badass shredder. He again, absolute pleasure to be playing with these people. I mean, our drummer's amazing, our bassist, like everyone in this band brings a lot to the table, and so yeah, that's Greasy Hands, and then I'm playing in this band called Infinite Drift that is sort of a passion project with some college friends, and people who have like played the res ball over the years. Honestly, the bass player is this guy Charles, who it's all very incestuous, like between the musicians in Baltimore and DC. Charles was in another band with the guitarist who would later play with the Late Bloomer band. My drummer had played in some things with Charles. Charles and I had a short-lived instrumental trio like years ago. It's all very,
All
yeah,
very
it's all like that.
interconnected.
So Infinite Drift is like me, a bassist, a keyboardist who's our main singer, and then a drummer. The other two guys had been in other bands with the bassist. All of them played res ball. We'd all gig together, all that, and this kind of came together like right before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit, and then we kind of kept at it though, because we would just send stuff to each other, and lay down parts over other things. So we actually like made a good amount of progress when we were all like really at home. And then have been back together, ever since the world reopened, and yeah, gig like handful of times a year. Both bands are I don't want to jump ahead, but both bands are like working on recordings right now, which I could talk about now or later, but both bands are like actively working. I'm gonna let you jump in because I just feel like I've been rambling.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just listening and absorbing everything that you're saying. I was just thinking about the two tracks that you sent me from
Mm,
Infinite Drift, and
yeah.
I love both of them.
Oh, hell yeah. Thank
So
you.
I'm going to say that first. And since, I made my comment a little earlier, I am a self-proclaimed music snob as well. So I really, really dig both of these tracks. I will say that I have them written here because I'm terrible with names. So I had them
Mm,
written in my notes here so that I remembered the names of them.
yeah, no
You
worries.
sent me Dealer
Uh-huh.
and Hot Pants.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Both of them were so great, like I said, but Dealer really gave me like Joe Cocker classic rock
Oh,
vibes. Like
okay.
that was like the whole vibe that I got from it. I just totally love it because that's like
Cool.
my wheelhouse. My dad would have just absolutely loved that if I played that for him. Um, and then Hot Pants for me, we were talking about Mo earlier, and I even put that in my notes that I felt like there was just so much Mo vibe in that one.
Mm,
And
okay.
the guitar playing in that really reminded me not only of Mo, but of my buddy Taylor, who is a guitar player for Mosey Beat, and he was actually our first featured
Mm,
artist. And so when I was listening to this, I'm like, oh my goodness, like it sounds like Taylor, which is funny because I've told Taylor how much his tone and everything reminds me of Mo. So
Mm,
it's interesting that it was all like really congruent in my feelings of those songs. But I absolutely loved those two tracks.
awesome. Thank you.
Um, so if you can tell me where I can listen to more, I definitely will because I loved both of those. Those were fan.
Yeah. We are working on
All
it.
right,
That's what
perfect.
I'll tell you. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. We're sort of those are kind of like I guess a step above a demo because we are getting them like mixed and that kind of thing. I don't know if people mix demos, but I think we're trying to just get some of that just to be able to like send, when we're hitting up a venue and be like, "Hey, we want to play." Like, "Oh, do you guys have any recorded music?" And we're like, "Actually, we do now."
Actually, we do have
Yeah.
something. Or you could just
Um
like bust out like a harmonica and do some improv on the street or some shit. I mean, there's
uh
always that option, right?
would not be as good as our actual music, but I like that. I like that.
You could sing the guitar parts like we were talking about
Sure, sure.
Gilmore. I mean, come on.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
Like I swear it sounds better than this when we're actually playing. No worries. Book us
Yeah,
now.
I like it. I like it. Yeah.
So, talk to me about being a lefty. We
Oh
talked
yeah.
about this well, it's May now. Yes. So, this month's featured artist, Ben,
Hmm.
is on the show and he was talking about being a lefty. And so, when all your information came in, I told my best friend, was like, yay, we have another lefty on the show. And he was so excited because he's a lefty player too. So talk to me about what it's like for you being a lefty. As I said, Ben shared
Mm.
his trials and tribulations and advantages and disadvantages of it, but I would love to hear yours and how you feel that that has helped or hindered your playing as you've grown and expanded.
Sure, sure. My guitar teacher, when I was like 10 years old at my first lesson, like sat me down and was like, "Okay, so you're holding it like this, like a lefty." He's like, "Now, what if you held it like this?" Like the right-handed way. And I wasn't even playing, and I was just, I'm just like 10 years old. I'm like, it doesn't feel right. So we went with the left-handed way. I wish someone in that moment was like, "Hey, if you're gonna stick with this, try the other way," because guitar shopping is terrible.
Yep. Yep.
And like, yeah, but I've figured it out. But yeah, like with a lot of big companies, I don't know, maybe small companies too, you like pay a penalty to get a lefty because they have to like switch around the whole process.
Yep.
And yeah, there's just like I cannot imagine what it feels like to be a righty and to walk into a guitar shop and be like, "Oh, I can play all of these." Like that blows my mind that people have that experience.
You're like,
Um,
wait, there's people on this planet that walk around, they could just do this?
yeah. I've
What's
been
the
to
lefty
one
music?
left-handed shop and I played like everything.
I bet.
There's like a few in the country. So yeah, but I figured it out, and honestly, I can play, like if I'm going into a store and want to try an amp or a pedal or even a guitar, I can play a righty because I've been around righties so much that I can kind of find my way upside down enough to play to get a feel for something. Um, I wouldn't play a gig like that, but I probably could give it enough time. So
I
um,
feel confident that you would be able, after having this conversation with you, I feel like you would be able to pull it off.
yeah, maybe, maybe. But yeah, so I've like figured it out, and I don't know. I mean, it's quite like rewarding when you find a good guitar too. In terms of like, honestly, in situations where I'm having to like learn on the fly at a practice or just sitting down with someone, you're mirroring a right-handed guitar. So there is that advantage when you're sitting with someone that you can literally look at where their hand is and just be right there with them.
Yep.
Um, You do have to read chord charts backwards, but I kind
Oh,
of figured that
okay.
out.
This is
Yeah.
interesting. I did not know this. Okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
they're
Makes
all
sense.
written as if they're on a right-handed neck.
Yep.
But that's just the thing you have to flip in your brain. And I mean, I learned that when I was so young that it's a non-issue these
You just
days.
look at it and it's like being a translator almost. You can just
Yeah,
read something in a different language and know what it means.
yeah, exactly. So. But yeah, I mean, it's super rewarding when you like find a nice lefty like out in the wild. My carvin that I have my Jake blade on, which is over my left shoulder. There we go. I can
Here it
point
is.
while I'm mirrored. Yeah. I just like saw that on the shelf at a used shop while I was like checking out and was like, "Oh, what is that?" And I'm pretty sure it's a one of a kind guitar because there's some like I think carvins were all made to order, or at least like some were, and it's got some like features on it that don't come standard. So yeah, I don't know who owned it before me, but it's a really cool guitar, and it's like one of my go-tos really. Like next to it is a Les Paul Studio, which it had been a dream of mine for a while to have like a black Les Paul. I kind of wish I'd bought a different color these days, but that guitar, the Carvin and the Les Paul, yeah, Carvin and the Les Paul, those have been like my ride or die guitars. Those have like all my recordings, all my gigging, like for years and years. Those have been the ones. I just got this red one here, this Gibson ES 335, and it is just amazing.
Gorgeous. Look at that
Yeah,
body.
yeah, this shop in Baltimore was consigning a this left-handed collector in Baltimore had passed maybe a year or so ago, and his family wanted to get his instruments into like hands of people that play them, and so this shop was hired to like consign the whole estate, and it was like 40 something guitars. I was like overwhelmed. I've like
Yeah.
never and this guy I mean he had stuff he must have gotten right from the companies. He had this like this, I can't remember if it was John Lennon or George Harrison, like this like small Rickenbacker that one of them had played once, so he bought one of those. He had a lot of Rickenbackers and a lot of Gretches, and then a handful of Gibsons. And the guys in the shop kept steering me towards this. They were like, if you're gonna buy one guitar from this collection, like get the 335. And it's a 2021, like barely had a scratch on it. And yeah, I bought that, and I absolutely love it. Um, the other thing, since it's at arm's length here, I got this little airliner mandola,
I
which is
love it.
really fun. I haven't used it much, I gotta be honest, but it was just like too cool and random to pass up. Um,
Totally.
yeah. So, yeah. So I would say the lefty thing over time has worked out, but yeah, shopping is difficult. I honestly think like um I may be at a point where like if I figure out what I would want, that maybe at some point I would like save my money and just commission a custom guitar, because um I'm finding as I'm getting older, I'm getting like real finicky about comfort, and like I do want something that has like a thinner neck, but because I play all these different styles of music, I've got these guitars with humbuckers, and I've got this Carvin, which is more of a Strat style, and I love to be able to straddle both of those worlds, and haven't really explored like like pickup combinations that allow for like, switches, and you can have a single coil or a humbucker, that kind of stuff. I know those are out there. I haven't nerded out enough to like to really know. Like my wife was talking to me like, should we commission a custom guitar for your 40th birthday? And I was like, I don't know what I want. That sounds great though.
Okay, first of all, hang on to that woman.
Oh yeah,
Okay, because
she's the best. Yeah.
I'm not married. This is probably part of the reason why I digress. But I can tell you that from my guy friends and stuff, they've said to me many times, they're like, we wish that we could find a girl like you that wouldn't be mad if we were at the guitar store. I'm like, and you would think that this would be like a selling point for me, but it actually, I feel like it's a deterrent. I feel like a lot of guys that are interested in me are actually sometimes put off by the
Hmm.
fact that I can like go into a guitar store and own them.
Oh, they're
With your
intimidated.
knowledge, and I'm
Hmm.
like, you're just the wrong dude then because
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think it's important that you like both have hobbies. That's definitely like a big part of how my wife and I make it work for sure. She's a lapidary artist. She cuts gems, she cuts rocks. And so we each like have our own little workspaces, and I'm often like doodling on guitar while she's cutting gems. So it
that's
works out.
all
Yeah.
the creative energy in your house. I love this.
Yeah, yeah, for
That's
sure.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Everybody says the same thing about being lefties, pretty much. It's like playing and learning to play is fantastic because you can mirror somebody sitting in front of you, but going shopping sucks.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, that it does. Yeah.
I'm confident you'll find exactly what you want someday to make your own thing a reality. I mean, especially now, it's just all the different people that I follow like on Instagram, and I run the RoughGauge social media, so I get to indulge more when I'm like under that handle and just really dig into all the stuff. And it's amazing the different companies and people and whatever that are just making all these different options on things now. And that kind of one of the advantages to what our conversation started before we started recording was, what a time to be alive that we have that option to
Yeah.
have all these different ideas come together.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
You'll have
Definitely.
your own Frankenstrat someday, and I can't wait to see it.
I certainly hope so. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about guitar players. Let me see. What else do we have here? We've got so many topics here. Oh, you did not tell me about playing at Warp Tour in 21.
Oh, yeah. So this was with Joe Keys and the Late Bloomer Band. So one of my other favorite bands is Fishbone.
Okay.
You know, I just like again with the eclectic music thing, those guys can play like ska to thrash metal to funk to soul, like they are I think they are one of the most underrated incredible bands in the world. So Joe Keys is good friends with them from like when they started. I think he was at their first show. He was living out in California at the time, and has kept in touch with them ever since. So even before this happened, he'd introduced me to a bunch of them, and that was obviously amazing getting to like meet some of my favorite musicians. So their singer Angelo Moore has all kinds of side music that he goes by Dr. Mad Vibe, and
Like it.
so he was on Warp Tour and basically just like took us along for a weekend run. It's kind of like a long weekend. I guess it was maybe like a Wednesday to Tuesday kind of thing, something like that. Sort of went like from, Maryland up to like New York and back and hit a few things in between. It was like 4 or 5 shows in a week or something. So we had learned like he's got these the stuff we were playing, I don't know how to describe it other than like circus funk because it's like
Okay.
they're like drums and keys and then like a million layers of saxophone. And the saxophone is like playing the lead and harmonizing to make the chords, and it is like this just like insane cacophonous like mix of just like a million saxophones and Angelo. I mean, that dude just has music overflowing from him. Um, so we translated all that to, a big funk band, and having a big horn section helped. And yeah, he this was actually this was the year of the res ball ankle sprain, so I was like in a boot and on crutches, like crutching around Warped Tour in like 90-degree heat. But man, we had a blast, and we weren't really properly booked. Like Angela was on the tour to kind of do an MC thing, and I think I never, this arrangement was never quite explained to me. I think the band Green Jelly, Green Jello, whatever they can call themselves these days. I think they're Green Jelly because Jello told them to not be Green Jello. But I think he was playing with Green Jello, and I think they got kicked off the tour. That's what I heard. And then Angelo was just kind of like on the tour, like emceeing, sitting in with people, that kind of thing. So every day Angelo and Joe went to the promoter to be like, "Hey, do you have a stage for us? Can we like play on a stage?" kind of thing. And it was like every day the stage got bigger. It's like we were in some random tent the first day, and then we were on a side stage, and then the very last gig we played, we ended up like closing the second main stage, which was crazy and like unscheduled, and the sound guys hated us because I had to be the one at like 11 in the morning. I go there and I'm like, "Hey, I'm with like the Angelo thing. Just wanted to like let you know." And he's like, "All right, what's the lineup?" And it was like 10 people, and the guy was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I get it. That's like, that's
Yeah,
like
that's a
not a
nightmare for a
conversation you
sound
want to
guy, I'm
have.
sure.
Yeah, yeah, you don't want to find out your day's extending by an hour and it's like a 10-piece band.
For
But
sure.
we did it. He did it. It was great. So yeah, that was like really the only like proper touring I've done other than like, weekend runs like here and there. And it was like far from proper, we were like in multiple cars. We were like sleeping on floors and
No,
um
that was proper tour.
yeah, I guess
That was
yeah,
still,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we like slept at Joe's like childhood home in Freehold, New Jersey one night. Our bassist's like brother's place in Brooklyn. I don't know. Slept home like a couple nights in between because we played at Merriweather, one of them. Um, but yeah, that was like an absolute blast. That was like really like some of my favorite gigs are the ones, and we did other gigs with Angelo too. That music was just really fun, and he is like just a true creative, true like professional. Like it just he knew like if I wasn't playing the guitar part like staccato enough, or the drums like if the hi-hat was open when it should have been closed, like he knew every part, every instrument should have been playing. So that was just a really cool thing to be a part of.
For
Yeah.
sure. And
Mhm.
not only to be a part of, but even just to witness. Like, even
Yeah.
if you're not a part of it, but just to witness it, just someone being that creative and that just
Yeah.
in tuned and having music, as you said, just spilling out of him. It just probably bleeds right out of him. Like
Yeah.
it's like air. It's just
Yeah.
in and out. It's just natural to him. So
It
what
really
an
does.
awesome
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah, dude like never stops, just constantly like vibrating. It's amazing.
What a cool energy to be around and kind
Yeah.
of talk about drawing inspiration. I mean,
Yeah.
you've spoken of so many different people that you've played with, and so it would lead me to the conclusion that, you have not only been inspired by the obvious players that we spoke about at the top of the conversation, but all of these other people that you have played with along the way now that will continue to maybe build on what you were inspired or bring inspiration in new and different ways. And that's exciting.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, again, I'm so grateful with the people that I have played with and continue to play with, and like yeah, it all goes back to just like trying to stay like switched on and just like absorb the music around you and absorb like, the new things that are happening, digging into the old things that you never really dug into. Yeah, yeah, just gotta keep the musician brain going.
Got to keep it fresh. That's been my favorite thing too, getting older and coming back to music that I didn't even listen to or give any time to for whatever reason that my life was what it was at that time.
Mm,
And it's been really cool to come back to other music, sometimes for like the very first time, being like, oh shit, I didn't know anything about any of this. And then you're just like, go into like an ADHD vortex of listening to the same album 100 times in a
Oh
row,
yeah.
but just
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I can't believe that I was sleeping on this, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
but I think it's because I don't know if it's you find music or music finds you, but whichever way that it happens, I've come to the conclusion that it happens exactly when it's meant to.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. For
So
sure.
like those that albums or what like there was a reason why that didn't come to me until now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
whatever that other is, you know, the lyrics or the whatever the inspiration is like it's amazing how divine timing plays in even in music. It's
For
beautiful.
sure, for
So
sure.
beautiful.
And your ears are different and like I'm gonna give you a really random example, but
Okay.
the band the Cardigans, that
Yep.
song Loveful, that was
Yep.
huge when it came out, 96, 97, whenever that was. I don't think I gave it much thought at the time. I I feel like some friend of mine posted something on social about that album, or someone told me that there's a cover of Iron Man on it. I don't remember exactly what it was, and there is, and it's amazing. But I like listened to that album for the first time maybe within like the last 3 or 4 years, and it's like it's gotten in my rotation. It's like it's so good. It's just random little things like that, you know. I love stumbling upon that stuff and just hearing it with fresh ears.
Totally. And I think it's because as we mature, being music fans and lovers the way that we are, you know, you mature and your sound and your love matures and your willingness to experiment in theory. I don't want to say everybody, but most people, especially music fans, I think, as you grow older, your ability to open yourself up happens more. You're not so like, oh, well, that wasn't made by my favorite band, so fuck it.
Yeah, sure.
You know, you're not just like, because that happens to all of us when we're younger, especially. We're just kind of like, this is my favorite band, and I'm only going to listen to this. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah,
And then
definitely.
you shut yourself off. But then that's the beautiful thing about music is that it doesn't go anywhere. So you can always find it. You know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode. Please be sure to leave a review of the show. It would mean so much to me, and it helps get this podcast into the ears of even more fellow music fans. If you're not already following the show on social media, find us on Facebook and Instagram at Dropped Among This Crowd Podcast, or check out datcmediacompany.com for more. Thank you again. I'll see you around these parts real soon. Mad love.